Welcome to the Big Hit episode. We're talking about the start of the NHL playoffs and our predictions for our brackets. Obviously, the West Coast is being represented here, but plenty of action from all around the NHL and a lot of talent in this year's playoff bracket, especially on the East, if you guys want to start talking about the Eastern side.
So there is a lot to talk about for the Eastern Conference here. It's been a bloodbath all year long. We saw this first matchup right here, Devils and Rangers. Are you kidding me? We get the Hudson River rivalry back at it again. And this, I don't care who wins it, it's going to 7 games. You can't convince me otherwise. Mm-hmm. But in my personal opinion, I think the Rangers are going to get this. Just because I feel like the Devils have made a lot of really good moves. And, they got Timo Meier, of course. And they're getting solid goaltending with Vanacek and Blackwood, I believe. But I just think the Rangers have the depth. They have the talent. They have the star power with Tarasenko, Panarin, Zibanejad, Tarasenko. Come on. I just think they have the star power and depth to take care of the Devils in 7.
I agree. I got Rangers in 7. You also forgot about Patrick Kane.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Kane.
They are building a super team, a very quiet super team that is only 3rd place in the East right now, in the Metro at least. I'm shocked they could not catch up to the Hurricanes or even pass the Devils, honestly. I commend the Devils in keeping 2nd place. They kept the Rangers all season. Other than that, though, I think this goes to 7. Rangers on the road will win in New Jersey. I think the Devils are just too young right now. But at the same time, young teams have won in the past, so anything could happen here. We saw when the Penguins had Ginsel back in the day, very young guy. They won the Cup with him. Other than that, I still think the Rangers, they have so much experience. Patrick Kane's been to the Cup a bunch of times with Chicago. Zibanejad should have been there last year with the Rangers, but Lightning, of course, bested them. But yeah, I'm going to take Rangers in 7.
You talk about a lot of playoff experience on that Rangers team, and I think that's going to have an impact too. I don't think age gets talked about enough in the NHL. I know it gets hammered home. But Luke Hughes coming out of nowhere, he's a nice depth piece. A lot of teams at the deadline go out, trade a 5th and a 7th to pick up like a 3rd line, or a 3rd pairing defenseman or something. Instead, they have somebody in the minors that they can call up. And they have guys in the minors that they can call up as well. Injuries is something that rears its ugly head, and as much as players on NHL 23 and GMs alike, nobody likes injuries, but New Jersey certainly has a lot of depth on that front. So that's going to be a highly contested game. But then go to the other Metro matchup, and that's going to be the Canes and Islanders. We all know how entertaining the Islanders can be.
Oh, boy. I'm getting flashbacks. So that's a Penguins fan.
I was going to say, I'll just start off really quick here. I don't want the Islanders to win.
No.
I know they've owned the Penguins in the past, in the playoffs. I just think they're a very boring team to me. There's not a lot of excitement on that roster. They're just one of those sneak in every year and somehow make a run teams. Hurricanes are just really good this year. I think they're a team that could go on a run. I've been a Sebastian Aho fan forever. I got the Hurricanes, and I'm going to say 6.
Sebastian Aho will win the series. It's just a matter of which one. I agree. I think the Canes are going to kind of have no problems. I'm actually going to go with 5 here because, like you said, the Isles really don't have – they got Bo Horvat.
Yeah.
But, it's just – there's just too much. I think there's just too much depth. Depth is truly a big factor when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. You have to have depth.
And with the Hurricanes, too, they are fast.
Yeah.
When the Penguins played them a couple times this year, they were skating all over the Pens. I know we're the oldest team in the NHL, but they do it to almost every team they face. It's just crazy. I think they call them a bunch of jerks down in Carolina because that's just how they play. They're just crazy. They're young. They're like the Devils, but doing what the Devils are not doing. They're 1st place in the Metro, of course, but they're really good.
And now we look at the next matchup where we have the Lightning and Maple Leafs. And this is not favoring the Maple Leafs getting out of the first round.
It's not. I feel like the same thing's going to happen again. I feel like the Lightning are the better team here. You can tell me all you want, Matthews, Marner, Tavares. They don't have goaltending. They've never had goaltending. And that's really been the issue that's plagued them. They brought in Matt Murray this year, and he just hasn't been it. Like, he just really hasn't. Ever since he left Pittsburgh and won that cup, he has not been the same. And it's going to haunt them again because Vasilevsky clearly is the better goalie here. Yeah. And the Lightning are the veteran and experienced team here.
Looking at it on paper, of course, Tampa Bay probably has the better goaltending situation right now. I think Toronto gets past them this year. I don't think it's an upset because they're the 2 seed on paper, so it's not an upset on paper right now. If there's any team that would beat Boston in round 2, I think it's better case scenario. It's Toronto get revenge on what happened in that game in Boston a long time ago. That game Toronto probably should have won. But Toronto is like that team. They're just cursed. They can't get to the Stanley Cup. I think this is the year they could do some damage and like be that sneaky team that no one's really, they're all sleeping on, saying it's just Toronto. They're like the Yankees right now in the MLB. They can't get to the World Series, but like they're that historic franchise. They have talent, and people are just making fun of them because they're like, you guys are cursed. We already know what's going to happen. You're going to lose in the second round. And this year they could have that second round rematch. This is why I'm picking Toronto. I want Toronto versus Boston in the second round. I want that rematch. So I'm going to take, I think, Toronto in 7. I think it's a very close one, though.
So I'll step in with the tiebreaker here. I'm actually going to take the Lightning. And I'm going to take him in 6 games. I don't think it's going to reach a game 7. And the only reason I say that is because Toronto's a team that for years has had so much money invested in that top 3. And then the depth in that lineup just isn't really there. It shows itself in the regular season here and there. But in the playoffs, that's when you start having to have depth. I mean, you look at teams, and Lars Eller was playing first line when the Caps won. And that's because they had players sprinkled down, and you had players that could step up. Toronto's not a team that has that, and they have way too much money invested up top. I think Giordano is a great player, and he's helping them a lot. But, I mean, just looking at that Lightning team, I mean, a lot of these players have been to the Cup and back several times. Yeah. That defense, it really comes down to defense in the playoffs. And that's why the Islanders make it farther than they should every year. But you look at Cernak, you look at Sergachev, you look at, I know they lost McDonough, but you still have Hedman back there. And goaltending. It's impossible to stop a hot goaltender in the playoffs, and Vasilevsky is one of, if not the best, on the planet. And then the final Eastern Conference matchup, kind of brutal one, where it's the Bruins and the Cats, Florida Panthers.
I feel bad for the Panthers because I wanted them to win the Cup last year. They're my probably favorite President's Trophy winner that I thought was going to break the curse. They didn't. I think Tampa Bay swept them in round 2. Boston will not lose in round 1 at least. I don't think the President's Trophy curse ends in round 1 this year. I think Florida steals 1 game. I think it would be interesting to see them win game 1 because there's the whole thing, like there's an illness going around in Boston. They don't know if their starting goalie's going to play tomorrow or tonight, I think it is, at the time of this filming. But I think they steal 1 game and surprise a lot of the Boston fans. I think it's going to be in Boston they win a game. But then Boston just pulls a reverse sweep, wins 4-1. Sad to see it happen, but Boston, 128 goal differential. I mean, Florida Islanders and the Penguins were playing in that race for the wild card, and the Panthers played the best hockey out of the 3 teams. They're 6-3-1 down the stretch into the playoffs. That's pretty good. But then you have the Bruins who had 65 wins. This is going to be a mauling, but I think the Panthers salvage a win.
I mean, there really isn't much to say. Yeah. I mean, you kind of said it. The huge goal differential. Bruins have been they've been more than on fire, quite frankly. And even though I understand about the sickness and all that, but they're just too good. Like, I think they're just too good. Call me urinating tree. They're just too good right now.
I just think Pecorino is too good right now. Pecorino is too good right now.
But
too good right now.
I do agree. I think Florida will steal a game, but I mean, Boston's they're just hot and everywhere.
Yeah, I think Florida gave up way too much in the past season. I think it all stems back. I genuinely think it stems back to the move that brought in Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux's not a playoff performer. They gave up Owen Tippett, who took a next step this year. He would have looked great on a line with Denisenko, and instead they lost him. And didn't get anything for Giroux. He walks in free agency. Then you go to the offseason. You lose Huberdeau and you lose a top pairing defenseman, was that Mackenzie Weegar. You lose Uyghur, and I think actually Uyghur's a bigger loss when it comes to playoffs.
Oh, 100%.
As much as it's great that they brought in Kachuk and honestly made the best of a bad situation, they gave up way too much in Uyghur because I think Uyghur was way undervalued. They don't have that defensive depth. Goaltending's a bit of a question mark. Alex Lyon is going to get the start. I mean, by the time this episode goes up, the game's already been played, but Alex Lyon gets the first start. And this is a goaltender. I mean, I watched him in Philly. He was horrible. And there's a reason he's a journeyman, because he cannot play against top goal scorers in the NHL. Goaltending's a big question mark for the Panthers, and I think we're not going to see like a Blue Jackets overcoming the Lightning, because that embarrassment already happened in our lifetimes. So Boston out of round one. So that's round one for the East Coast, and then on the West, we have a couple pairings there. We'll start off with the Avalanche and Kraken.
This honestly, it could go either way. I'm going to be completely honest here. Seattle, I know they're the first wild card. My apologies. They're young. They have talent. They have a lot of promise. The Avs, they've been there, done that. They literally hoisted the cup last year. But Seattle could turn some heads this year. This is their chance, even though they might not make it past this first round. I think they steal a couple games. I'm going to be completely honest here. Matty Beniers, I'm pretty sure he's still on the line. He didn't get sent down. He's
still up. Yeah,
Beniers is still up. Jared McCann, Pittsburgh Penguin loss. You hate to see it, but the Avs are going to win this.
How many games you got?
It's going to be 6 games.
I'm going to take an Avs sweep. I don't know why. The Kraken, yes, they have some veterans on it. They have some solid NHL players on that team. The team as a whole, though, there's not a lot of playoff experience there. They are the expansion team. Who knows? They could do what Vegas did. I'm just happy they didn't do it last year, because I would have been like, I'm tired of the expansion team making the Stanley Cup their first year. Vegas somehow did it. This is Seattle's second year. I give them more credit for doing it year 2. They took a different approach in the draft. They picked younger guys, like guys who could help in the future rather than now. I think they're a little bit too early on their playoff track right now. I thought it would be a year or 2 from now, not this year. The Avs are coming off a Stanley Cup. They still got McKinnon. I think he's going to have a really good Stanley Cup playoffs, but I think it's going to be a sweep. Every game's going to be close, though. I think there could be an overtime game in there somewhere. I think every game by 1, but I'm going to take the Avs.
Yeah, this is exactly like the Bruins-Canes matchup from a couple years ago. Canes were a bit of a younger team, and they came out, didn't win that series, but coming out after that, they bounced back. Seattle was given a harsher hand in the draft, and Vegas was given a lot of weapons by teams for free. And Seattle didn't get the same thing. They did a good job. Their coaching staff is decent, but you got to take the Cup contenders and the reigning champions. So then the next matchup that we have, Dallas Stars and Minnesota Wild.
So just kind of a little rapid fire real quick. I think the Stars are going to win this one. Jason Robertson, Jake Ottinger, dogs. That's all I have to say. 5 games.
I'll just add, I love this matchup. I don't know what it is. I semi like the Wild. I like Kaprizov, really. He's like one of my favorite NHL players right now. I'm going to take the Wild in 7. Okay. I like that as the matchup there.
Yeah, I like a 7-game series. I take the Wild as well. They have really good defensive depth, and I know that I keep falling back on that. The offense isn't really there, I don't think. I mean, past that first line. And Hartman's shown that he can be kind of, sporadic scorer here and there. But Wild in 7 sounds good. Then the other expansion team recently taking on the Jets, Vegas Golden Knights and Winnipeg Jets, first round.
I got a upset here. Jets are winning.
Yeah, there you go.
Jets in 7.
Jets in 7. I am going to take as well. I got Jets in 6.
Let's go.
I'm going to take an upset there as well.
Go.
I like those Canadian teams. I think this might be the year for Canada to finally win a cup. They need all the reinforcements they need.
Yeah, I don't know. The entire season, the teams around the NHL has counted out Vegas, thinking, okay, these players were good a couple years ago, kind of washed now. They're having the same playing style, but I see that as the opposite. This roster has solidified, and I think that there's a reason that they're coming in as a 1 seed. I like the Knights coming out of the first round, moving on to round 2. Obviously, the big hits vote is in favor of the Jets. Then the final matchup starting tonight, the Oilers, and the Kings.
I also could see an upset here, but I'm going to go with Edmonton. I think it's long overdue, and I think McDavid and Draisaitl finally need to get out of the first round.
I'm just saying this now. They are the equivalent of the LA Angels. For you baseball fans, they have like the Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani right now. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid. McDavid 153 points. He's going to win the MVP this year. Draisaitl's 128. Next closest has 113. They can't be wasting these guys' careers anymore in Edmonton. I think they're going to come out and get a 5-game series win.
So the IUP-TV official vote will be in favor of Edmonton. I actually take the Kings. I'm going to give them the sympathy vote. I think Jonas Korpisalo's return to the playoffs is actually going to be underrated. He really hasn't had a lot of playoff experience. We don't know what he can do, and he's an older guy. He has a lot of games under his belt. He's a good goaltender. I like Vegas's depth as well. Really young team as well. I like Byfield making that next step this year. And I want to see what the Kings can do. I think they can make it out of the first round, especially with the veteran leadership that they have. And a lot of cups in that atmosphere as well. Also, talking about depth, McDavid and Draisaitl are good, but can it make up for the rest of the lineup? In years past, it hasn't, but in years past, they don't have, 300 points combined between the two, or over 250.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the first round matchups done for the big hit. So a lot of talent in the round of 16, but really interesting playoffs in store, and I, for one, will be eagerly watching to see the results, and we hope you will too. That's it for the NHL segment of the Big Hit.